I wanted to share a trick when placing back these motors. What happens is they have bushings at the ends, both ends. And actually these bushings look like a sleeve, like a cylinder, but it can rotate. It's not rigidly fixed in there. And what happens, let's just give an example. If I would just put it the other way. So I would insert here the shaft, and look what happens. I can actually rotate this thing. I can rotate it in all planes. And imagine, just imagine if the bushing, when you inserted everything, when you put the covers back in place, let's just exaggerate a little bit. If the bushing sits like this, you are going to insert the shaft into the bushing, it's going to slide, but what will happen is that the cover will be slightly tilted, and even if you attach the cover with the studs and screws here, what will happen is the bushing, the rod here, the shaft will kind of force sideways on the bushing, and it's the same goes for the rear bushing. So the shaft is going to kind of slightly just angle and force on the bushing here. It's going to keep the bushing under side pressure. And what this does, it's increasing the friction between the shaft and the bushing. It's removing the lubrication, and it's actually going to increase the wear and also slow down the motor, slow down the maximum speed. And also this one comes from a sewing machine. On sewing machines, we oftentimes vary the speeds, and we want a very slow speeds at some moments. The motor will not be able to achieve that very slow speed because there is too much friction in here. So I'm just giving you a trick how to align these bushings to really have them on the same axis as the shaft, so there is no friction in there. And I'm going also to put it all back together and give you a power test with electricity, and just give you an idea. Okay, so we do have here those O-rings. If you want, mine, the black one, needs to go towards the motor. The red one goes towards the bushing. Let me just try first to remove this. I'm not sure what the names are for this big part. This big chunk of metal, by the way, I'm not powered at this moment, it's unplugged from the wall. So this piece of metal may really seem stuck at first. It's not stuck in there. There's no screw. This is just actually this is securing the clip for the bushing, but not this big chunk. So what I will really do at this moment, at this point, I will just insert the tip of a knife and just gently pry it out a little bit. Go on the other side. I did show this in another video. Right now mine, it's unstuck. I can remove it from there. You need to be careful with the two brushes. They are going to kind of jump into the shaft. And be careful with these wires. Don't touch this wire, don't damage them. So what you want to try is put just the center spinning part together, insert into the both bushings. You will not be able to close it because the cable is hanging in there, and you just want to try to align the two components like this. Try it visually, but one easy way is just put them, you can tell they are really misaligned. Hopefully you see enough. Just try to bring the light closer. So try by eyes, but also what you want to do, yeah, I think my other, no, it's still in there, my smaller rings. Try to match the bushing. So maybe put it on the table like this and just press on them. Press on both sides, and maybe rotate it on the side like this and press on both sides like this. Really try to rotate it all around and just look for a even gap here. And when you do so, just try to remove a little bit. When you do so, this will force on the sleeves or on the bushings, how you call them, to be almost axially aligned with the shaft. So this is what you want to do. Let me just I'm going to give you a test at the end I'm going to power the motor, also spin it by hand. You can actually try at this point to rotate the shaft and feel, let's just sit it on the table, feel how it rotates. If it's kind of, it turns difficult, it means the bushings are not axially centered with the shaft. So you really need to just go all around and check again. So it has to be really, I'm pressing down here with some force, and it kind of doesn't want to move. If I'm not pressing, it's going to move much easier. So I'm letting you to just kind of you know, adjust it properly. Let me see. Okay, one of the things that it's tricky here, I'm going to do it for the video. And by the way, you see, I did remove this component from the shaft, and my shaft was already lubricated with oil. So now there is oil on my two brushes. So I'm going to redo after the video and clean with alcohol the brushes, only alcohol. So that's important. You put them, I'm going to actually clean with alcohol the shaft from any oil, place this component with the brushes in place, put the brushes on the commutator, and then I'm going to re-lube the shaft. So you really need to be careful not to have oil on the brushes or on the commutator surface. Let's just try to place this part here, because I think this is the most trickiest part when you put the things back in place. First off, be careful with, again, just like you've seen, be careful with these small washers, because they like to drop. Again, look, the red one, it's toward the bushing, and the black one, there is a black one in there, is toward the motor. Same for the other side. I'm not going to place them here because it's easier for me to film, but be careful with them one of the way, so you don't drop them inside, because this may disengage from the bushing, it drops the washer inside, you don't even realize that, and to put it back in place. So it's not ideal because it's going to have friction metal on metal. So one way to prevent this is just to keep the shaft like this upside down when you insert it in there. And just once you insert it in there, let me just look past the camera. Once you insert it in there, if you know it's seated and you don't disengage it, then you can reverse it. So that's just a trick. The same goes for the other cover. You want to also look where the cable opens on this cover, because you need to match. This one has lubrication holes. This is the lubrication, tiny lubrication hole for the bushing. And actually, when you put the motor back into the machine, you need to have the front hole upside like this, above the bushing, not below the bushing. Very critical, actually, because the oil will, there is kind of a whatever absorbent material is in there, so it gets the oil through this hole, and then it leaks. The bushing will warm up, it softens the oil will leak towards the bushing, and it lubricates it. If you place the motor like this inside the machine, you are going to lubricate the hole, you are going to lubricate whatever, nothing. Basically, the oil is not going to rise, go upwards. So this has to be like this, and the other end has to stay like this as well at the top with that hole. So you need to kind of figure out before doing the assembly. Also look where the cable comes, because this is the cable hole, and the other end of the cable is going to kind of come at the same area here, not the other way. So these are kind of, I don't know, cautions that you need to be careful. Okay, let's just try to put this piece in place. Like I said, I think this is one of the trickiest parts. And I'm going to, what I'm doing here, I'm placing first this rotor. Let's hold for the camera to focus. I'm placing first the rotor. I'm going to place this part first. There are sleeves. I'm going to place them afterwards. And again, you want to figure out, so if this rear end stays with the drain oil at the top, is going to sit like this, then the front end is going to stay with the oil hole at the top, and then the cable has to come through this left side. So I'm going right away to just match the orientation of the cable on this piece, and that's how I'm going to place it back over the rotor. Important, right? So let's just try to slide this piece in place. I have to say that the gap here, whoops, it's very tight. This is very, very close to the cover, so it has a tiny plate, but sometimes it feels it gets stuck. So just careful, and the caution when you slide this piece back in place, careful so you don't bump the shaft, so you don't push on this plate. These cables are very small and they are soldered in there. If you break one, obviously it's not going to work anymore, but also if you break one, it may touch the case and you may get an electric shock when you power it. So always bench testing after you assemble the motor before putting into the machine, whatever machine is. Power the motor when it's all screwed with all the screws covers in place. Power the motor, make sure it works, maybe touch it, see if you get an electric shock. Anyhow, let's just move on. So go gently here, you don't want to break any wires. Pay attention to this shaft here. The shaft is coming out, and at this point you want to grab the habit. That's the problem. So let's just try to first press the brushes in. I did say it in another video, brushes are go in only one way, and you need to align them. I'm just going to repeat it for the sake of it. It has a curve. This curve goes like this. Do not rotate it like this, it's not going to work. But same for the other one, so really pay attention, and when you put it in place, it has to go like this. Notice the curve, it has to go against the curve of the rotor. When it's seated, just take a magnifying glass, make sure it's properly seated, make sure it's not rotated like this. So this is wrong, this is right. Make a double check at the last moment when you put it back in place, and just because it spins here, it rotates, and you may, if you don't pay attention, you have a problem. So I'm going to just push them back in there. It's not a problem. The spring actually, that spring that you see makes contact, electrical contact at the end of this kind of enclosure. Yes, this is the nasty part if you want. Oops, I can tell. I'm not going to do this video twice, so bear with me. It shows you the actual struggle. Perhaps gives you an idea about the difficulties. If you have a person to help you, like a handy person that you can collaborate with easily, yes, get some help. So I'm going to just keep my finger in between the two brushes, and it's a bit of acrobacy. Remember, the cable has to go on one side, and you notice perhaps this chunk has a long side and a short side, which matches the enclosure. Let me just check again. The hole, oil hole is at the top. I'm going to slide it, and while I'm sliding it here, I need to just kind of keep the brushes in place. It's gymnastics at this point, and at the same moment, don't let the brushes go until they hit the commutator. At the same moment, you need to slide the chunk in. It's not easy. I have done this several times, and my very humble advice, don't try to do it the first time. Do it several times, knowing you are going to try it again 5 times. So that's when you get the idea, get used to it. So match this big piece into the, see, okay, I think it started. So don't force on this guy, because the plate here didn't slide already, so you are going to distance the plate and may damage the cables. So at this point, basically, I'm keeping the brushes kind of against the shaft. Don't let them go. If you let them go, you need to remove the thing back in place. So I just kind of keep the brushes against the shaft. Don't let them slide by the side of the shaft. You won't be able to put them back in place. You need to remove the thing. And I'm just going to hopefully lower it. It's still, I think the big piece still didn't go all the way in. By this point, the brushes kind of stay in place, but I'm not sure. So it's really difficult to slide the big piece in there, because it gets stuck at one area, is not properly centered, and you have to kind of keep your finger on the brushes, and with the remaining fingers lower the thing. At the same time, you must, like it's happening here, you see the plate, it starts to pull, being pulled upwards. You shouldn't do that. So you get the point. I think it's funny to watch. Okay, at this point I can let go the brushes. It's, I don't know, like I said, is the difficult part of this this operation. So you notice this big chunk, it doesn't really have a single place in there. It's weird, I can tell you. And keep in mind, don't remove this shaft, don't lift it from there. You are going to lose those washers inside. So I was saying that this at least on this unit, is kind of, it's awkward to center, to have the same gap on all both sides, and even then it kind of rotates a little bit. It's just awkward, and normally it should sit against these bumps. So there is a fully seated position, and I'm trying to feel it. I think it's not yet really aligned center. It's at least on this motor that I have here, it's difficult to kind of feel when it's fully seated. I would say this is it, but I will check here the gap to be even on both sides, about the same gap on the other side. Maybe I'm going to put my finger like this, try to feel it. It's awkward, I can tell you. Well, awkward, it's not the word awkward, but it's not really like plug and play, if I say so. Okay, at this point the brushes sit against the commutator. Again, I'm going to actually remove everything again. I'm doing this for you, really, for the video. And let's just insert these studs. Now, these studs at the bottom, they have tiny bumps. Those two tiny bumps, which means, yes, another difficulty, if you want, you need to insert it in there. Let's just try to insert it. This unit, what's going on is that it needs to match this hole here. So if that big chunk is not aligned, it is aligned, hopefully. You need to just adjust it. I'm going to, it's kind of a sleeve, plastic sleeve that gets into the metal part and the plate. Then this guy comes by the top of the plate. Let's just put it like that for a moment. Yes, I was saying, let's just go for this detail. At the bottom here, see what happens. I'm going to pull on it and see what happens. See that the camera will focus. I'm going to pull on it and notice that at some point it going to drop in there like this. This is the correct position. It's fully seated, but if you rotate it, I'm not sure if the camera will really show you the detail. You see at this point, perhaps you can tell there is a gap in there. This is not the fully seated position. You just need to rotate it until it drops in there. It does not look like a big plate, but if you don't sit it fully, you are going to tighten here. At some point it's going to drop by itself, and this nut is going to be loose then at that point. It's not what you want. That nut, this plate is going to move, the brushers is going to move. That's not what we want, right? So make sure you sit that little thing. I'm confused. Actually, I understand why they it's kind of locking it in place from rotating. At this point, I can no longer rotate it. If it's not locking there, you can rotate it, and I guess that nut, it can break loose. So that's why they did put those two bumps, so the stud can lock in place, no longer rotating, and the nut is staying secure. So be really careful at this detail with the gap there. Let's slide in the next one. I have my sleeve. Need to match this hole too, so I'm just matching the hole in the plate. And one other thing is that I have I have 3 different nuts on this unit. The nut that goes here, the second nut that goes at the top of the cover, and each nut has a different washer to it. Second nut here, and the third nut, it's the ones that secure the motor to the securing plate, and then the plate is secured on the machine with another bolt. So you need to remember which nuts go where, because if, for instance, this nut here actually has a locking washer and it has to go here. So when you disassemble everything, usually I just keep them together. I put them back on the stud. I put the stud on my table, and then I'm going to put the nut on the table. And also these nuts have a flat face and a rounded face. It's difficult to see on the camera. The flat face goes against the washer. So yes, maybe you are starting to say, hey, that is kind of too much for me, but doing this job, I think it's for the people who have a sort of, who enjoying this, and also who have sort of mechanical feeling to them, so they can observe these details, remember subtle details. Sometimes it's a very good idea to film yourself. If you have a camera that can film for a while, just film, record yourself, take pictures before removing something, because there are many parts that need to go at the correct position in a certain way. Now this one, it's a I think it's 7mm. Also I'm double checking the rod, it's engaged here at the bottom. Let's try to double check the other one guy too. You don't want to break this sleeve here. If you break it, what's going to happen, if you crack this sleeve here, this nut is going to get loose, and when it's loose, this whole plate is going to move. The brushes will just hit here, it stops. It shouldn't be. Okay, let's just put this plate, this cover back in place at this moment. Hopefully I did put the cable in the correct position, but my main video was simply to show you how to put this, or at least how difficult it is to put this thing back in place. I'm going just to double check. Let's see, hopefully I didn't make a mistake. So if the cable, I do have other videos, so look on my channel about disassembling, about removing this kind of plastic plug that keeps the cable in place. Go gently with this cable so you don't break those soldering. Let's just try to slide it in place. At this point I want to do a test, a live test if you want. Maybe check around, no cable has detached so it doesn't touch the case. Some of them are kind of close to the case, but maybe just look from the side. In theory it should have enough clearance. It shouldn't touch unless something has moved here or detached from there. Let's try to wiggle this cable out gently. I'm going to engage at this point the bushing. Okay, and you need to at the same time kind of adjust the cable because the cable will get stuck in there. Okay, so it looks like okay-ish. Let's just try to put this. I want to test it, but I want come again this washer. This is another washer for there. It has a flat face and a round face. Flat face goes first towards the motor. It's the face that puts pressure on the assembly. You notice how this screw is different. And I will have another screw, actually it's a nut. I'll have another nut on top of it. This one, it's okay, you can tighten it some more because it's metal on metal. It doesn't affect the plastics. I think I have sort of a, I'm going just to tighten it for now for testing, but you can put more pressure, more torque on it if you want. So let's prepare the thing for a testing. I'm just tightening. I really encourage you to put these nuts in place before testing it, so you don't have a mishap and disconnect these things and maybe get an electric shock. So if the cover slides off the other one and those wires touch the cover, then you are going to dance. So notice I didn't put those washers, just for a quick testing. So one thing, when you put like this, when you tighten here, first thing you want to just spin the thing by hand. Spin it by hand. It's very difficult for me to express what's too much friction and what's normal, but I don't know, maybe give it a quick spin and you should see it kind of continue to spin for maybe 1 second or so. It's a matter of, I don't know, adjustment, but this is the point with those sleeves or bushings being slightly rotating. Sometimes you can try to just push on the shaft. If it feels it's too hard to turn, try to push with some force on all direction. Push, pull on it, just kind of wiggle it like this and see if it breaks a little bit loose. If not, maybe you need to undo everything and just make that test first at the beginning of the video. Align the center rotating part with the two covers and just make sure the shafts are aligned. This is important part. Let's just try a test right now. I'm going to go plug it into the wall. Okay, so I do have a this is a sewing machine motor. I do have my controller. It's a variable. Okay, I think I did press the camera button that actually stopped the video, so I'm still here. I was saying that I do have this pedal here, which is going to vary the voltage on the motor, the current on the motor, and I'm going to do these two tests. One test is going to be, let's call it high-speed test. The second one, just like I was saying in the beginning of the video, it's a slow speed test. Why? Because when the motor is in good condition and also your controller is in good condition, you should be able to actually give very slow voltage to the motor. And if there is normal friction on the bushings and good lubrication as well, these motors should be able to spin at very slow speeds. That tells you there is not too much friction in there, so it can, with little current, it can turn slowly. That's a very important test, and also it's important when you operate a sewing machine, by the way. Okay, let's just give it a try. Keep in mind, if you did a mistake with the wirings, when you give it power, there can be an electric shock, so just keep this in mind. I'm just saying, so that's just a warning. Let's just give it a try. Okay, sorry, it's not plugged in the other. Let me just plug it here. Where is it? Okay, that's my my other connector wasn't plugged, so. Does it go one way? My table, it's a bit of okay, there you go. Okay, let's just try it. So let's just try a slow speed first. It's reasonably slow. Let's just try a fast speed. So I'm not going to go the fastest speed because I didn't put the bushing. I don't want to those O-rings. I don't want to make too much metal, and also it doesn't really have a lot of lubrication at this point. But this is a good test. If you can see it spinning relatively slow, then it's a good thing. So anyhow, do a test like this before placing into the machine, and hopefully all this struggle gives you an idea and maybe gives you courage to try it and to just put it back in place. All right, thanks for watching, and check my other videos on my channel.